What is reality? It seems like a simple question at first. You're sitting in a chair. Maybe you're holding a phone or looking at a screen. You can feel the weight of it. You can see the light from it. You can hear the sounds around you. The floor feels solid under your feet. The air feels cool or warm on your skin. This is reality. It's the world of things, the world of cause and effect. You push something, it moves. You eat when you're hungry, and the hunger goes away. This is the reality we live in every day. It's practical, it's predictable for the most part. We build our lives on the assumption that this reality is true and stable. We trust that the sun will rise, that gravity will keep us on the ground, and that the past is fixed. For all intents and purposes, this is a good working model. It gets us through the day. But the question is about the true nature of reality, not just the working model. And that's where things get strange. The more you look at that simple, solid world, the less simple and solid it becomes. It starts to unravel. The floor that feels solid is, according to physics, almost entirely empty space. It's a buzzing cloud of atoms, which are themselves mostly empty space, held together by forces we don't fully understand. The solidness you feel is just the electromagnetic force from the atoms in the floor repelling the atoms in your feet. It's a sensation, a force field. It's not solid in the way we think of solid, so right away, our most basic experience of the world is a kind of illusion. A useful one, but an illusion nonetheless. Our senses are not giving us a direct picture of reality. They are giving us a translation, a user interface. Our eyes detect a tiny slice of the electromagnetic spectrum. Our ears detect a narrow range of vibrations in the air. Our brain takes this limited data and builds a model of the world. It's a good model for survival. It helps us find food, avoid danger, and connect with other people. But it's not the whole picture. It's a sketch, not the territory itself. This leads to the first major way of thinking about reality: the scientific materialist view. This view says that reality is, at its core, physical stuff, matter and energy. It all started with the Big Bang, a single point of unimaginable density that expanded into the universe we know today. From that expansion came particles, then atoms, then stars and galaxies and planets. On at least one of these planets, atoms combined in complex ways to form life. And eventually, that life evolved brains complex enough to become self-aware and ask, what is all this? In this view, everything is a product of physical laws. Consciousness, love, art, morality, these are all emergent properties of complex systems of atoms. They are things that happen when you arrange matter in a certain way, like the wetness of water is something that happens when you get a lot of H2O molecules together. Your thoughts are the firing of neurons in your brain. Your feelings are chemical reactions. There is nothing outside of the physical system. When your brain stops working, you stop existing. The universe was here long before you, and it will be here long after you. It is vast, ancient, and indifferent. For a long time, this clockwork model of the universe seemed pretty complete. Physicists like Newton described a universe that ran on predictable laws. If you knew the position and momentum of every particle, you could, in theory, predict the entire future of the universe. Reality was a grand, deterministic machine. It was a cold and impersonal view, but it was logical and it worked. It allowed us to build bridges, send rockets to the moon, and understand the orbits of the planets. But then, in the early 20th century, we started looking closer at the building blocks of this machine. We looked at the world of the very small, the world of quantum mechanics, and reality stopped making sense. At the quantum level, the world is not made of tiny, solid balls. It's made of probabilities and waves of potential. A particle, like an electron, doesn't have a definite location until you measure it. Before you look, it exists in a state of superposition, a smear of all its possible locations at once. The act of observing it forces it to choose a position. This is the observer effect. The universe, at its most fundamental level, seems to be affected by the act of being watched. Think about that. The physical world isn't just sitting there waiting for us to find it. It seems to be in a state of fuzzy potential until an observation is made. This completely shatters the idea of an objective, clockwork reality that exists independently of us. Who is the observer? Does it have to be a conscious human, a camera, a cat? This question, known as the measurement problem, is one of the deepest mysteries in physics. No one has a good answer, and it gets weirder. Particles can become entangled. This means you can link two particles together in a special way. Then, no matter how far apart you take them, even if they are on opposite sides of the galaxy, they remain connected. If you measure a property of one particle, you instantly know the corresponding property of the other. It's as if they are communicating faster than the speed of light, which, according to Einstein, should be impossible. He called it spooky action at a distance. This suggests that our understanding of space and separation might be wrong. In reality, might be interconnected in ways we can't see or comprehend. Quantum mechanics tells us that the foundation of our physical world is not solid and definite, but uncertain and probabilistic. It suggests that the observer plays a crucial role in shaping what is real, and it shows us that the universe is not a collection of separate things, but a deeply entangled, holistic system. This quantum weirdness opens the door to another way of looking at reality, one that has been around for much longer than science. This is the idea that consciousness, not matter, is the fundamental stuff of the universe. This is called idealism. In this view, the physical world is a product of mind or consciousness. It's not that the brain creates consciousness, but that consciousness creates the brain and everything else we perceive. The universe is not a collection of objects, but a collection of thoughts or experiences. Think of a dream. In a dream, you experience a world that feels completely real. It has people, places, and physical laws, but it's all being generated by your mind. What if waking reality is something similar, a kind of shared dream or a collective hallucination? This sounds like science fiction, but it's a serious philosophical position. Philosophers like George Berkeley argued that for something to exist, it must be perceived. To be is to be perceived. A tree in a forest only exists if someone or something is there to perceive it. Now, this doesn't mean the tree vanishes when you walk away. A religious idealist might say that God is always perceiving everything, holding it all in existence with his mind. A more modern take might be that there is a universal consciousness, and our individual minds are just temporary ripples in that larger ocean of awareness. The hard problem of consciousness gives this idea some weight. The hard problem is this: why does it feel like something to be alive? Why do we have subjective experience? Science can explain how the brain processes information. It can map which neurons fire when you see the color red, but it cannot explain why you have the inner experience of redness. Why isn't it all just dark, unfeeling computation? Materialism has no good answer for this. It can only say that consciousness emerges from complexity, which isn't really an explanation. Idealism flips the script. It says that experience or consciousness is the starting point. It's the one thing we know for sure. You can doubt that the physical world is real, but you cannot doubt that you are experiencing something right now. So maybe that experience is the fundamental reality, and the physical world is just the way that experience presents itself to us. A modern, tech-savvy version of idealism is the simulation hypothesis. This is the idea that our reality is an advanced computer simulation. What we think of as physical laws are just the lines of code that the simulation is running on. Our bodies, our brains, the entire universe are all just information being processed by a giant computer somewhere in a higher level of reality. This might sound crazy, but there are some compelling arguments for it. The philosopher Nick Bostrom argued that if any civilization ever reaches a technological stage where they can create convincing simulations of reality, they would likely run billions of them. For historical research, for entertainment, for any number of reasons. If that's true, then the number of simulated realities would vastly outnumber the one base reality. Therefore, it is statistically more probable that we are in one of the simulations than in the one real world. There are also hints in the laws of our universe that suggest it could be a simulation. The fact that there's a maximum speed, the speed of light, could be like a processing speed limit for the computer running the show. The weirdness of quantum mechanics, where things only become definite when observed, could be a clever bit of programming to save on processing power. The universe doesn't need to render the details of a distant galaxy until someone points a telescope at it. It's a form of computational optimization. We are finding that at its deepest level, the universe seems to be made of information. Physicists, like John Wheeler, summed it up with the phrase "it from bit." The physical world, arises from bits, or information. If reality is a simulation, what does that mean? It doesn't necessarily mean our lives are meaningless. The experiences we have, the love we feel, the pain we suffer, are still real to us. But it does change our understanding of our place in the cosmos. It would mean there's a creator, or at least a programmer. It would mean that the laws of physics are not fundamental, but could potentially be changed or hacked. It would mean there might be a reality outside of our own. Then there is the spiritual or mystical perspective. For thousands of years, long before quantum physics or computer science, people have explored the nature of reality through introspection, meditation, and spiritual practice. And across many different cultures and traditions, they have often arrived at remarkably similar conclusions. The core insight of many mystical traditions is that the reality we perceive through our senses is not the ultimate reality. Our everyday world of separate objects and separate selves is an illusion. The true nature of reality in this view is a unified, indivisible whole, a single, infinite consciousness or being. In Hinduism, this is called Brahman. In Taoism, it's the Tao. It's the unnameable source from which everything arises and to which everything returns. According to this perspective, our individual sense of self, the feeling that I am a separate person inside this body, is the primary illusion. We are not separate drops of water, but waves in a single ocean. The goal of spiritual practice is to see through this illusion and experience this underlying unity directly. This experience is often described as enlightenment, liberation, or awakening. Those who claim to have had this experience describe a profound shift in perception. The boundaries between self and world dissolve. They feel a deep sense of connection to all things. They experience a state of peace and bliss that is not dependent on external circumstances. They don't just believe that reality is one, they feel it as a direct, undeniable truth. This perspective is not based on theories or experiments, but on direct, subjective experience. It's a first-person science of consciousness. It can't be proven or disproven by looking through a telescope or a microscope. It can only be verified by looking within yourself. It suggests that the ultimate answers about reality are not found in equations or data, but in a transformation of our own consciousness. So we have these different maps of reality. The materialist map, which says reality is made of mindless physical stuff. The idealist map, which says reality is made of mind or consciousness. The simulation map, which says reality is information being processed. And the mystical map, which says reality is a unified spiritual whole. Which one is right? Maybe they are all pointing at the same thing from different angles. Maybe reality is so complex and strange that it can't be captured by any single human concept. Maybe it has a physical aspect, a mental aspect, an informational aspect, and a spiritual aspect all at the same time. And there's another layer we haven't talked about much. Your personal reality. The reality you actually live in. Because no matter what the ultimate nature of the cosmos is, your day-to-day experience is shaped by something much closer to home in your own mind. Your reality is filtered through your beliefs, your memories, your emotions, your culture, and your language. Two people can look at the same cloud. One sees a fluffy sheep, the other sees a sign of an impending storm. The cloud is the same, but their realities are different. Two people can experience the same event, like losing a job. One person experiences it as a devastating failure. The other experiences it as a liberating opportunity. The event is the same, but their realities are worlds apart. The stories we tell ourselves about the world become the world we live in. If you believe the world is a hostile and dangerous place, you will find evidence for that everywhere. You will see threats and enemies around every corner. That will be your reality. If you believe the world is a fundamentally good and supportive place, you will find evidence for that. You will see kindness and opportunity. That will be your reality. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's how our brains are wired. We are constantly filtering information, paying attention to things that confirm our existing beliefs and ignoring things that don't. We construct our reality moment by moment with our attention and our interpretation. This means we have more power to shape our reality than we might think. We can't change the fundamental laws of physics, but we can change the lens through which we view the world. We can question our beliefs. We can change our stories. We can choose what we pay attention to. By changing our inner world, we can profoundly change our experience of the outer world. So where does this leave us? We've journeyed from the solid chair to the empty space of atoms, to the fuzzy probabilities of quantum mechanics, to the possibility that this is all a dream or a simulation, to the mystical vision of a unified whole, and finally, back to the power of our own minds. The true nature of reality is perhaps the greatest mystery there is, and the honest answer is nobody knows for sure. We have theories, models, and stories, but they are all just fingers pointing at the moon. They are not the moon itself. Maybe the point isn't to find a final, definitive answer. Maybe the point is to keep asking the question. The question, what is reality, forces us to be humble. It reminds us that our common sense view of the world is not the whole story. It pushes us to the limits of our science and our philosophy. It invites us to look deeper, both outward into the cosmos and inward into our own consciousness. Perhaps reality is not a thing to be figured out, but an experience to be lived. It's the feeling of the sun on your face, it's the taste of food, it's the joy of connecting with another person. It's the pain of loss, it's the wonder of looking up at a starry night and feeling both infinitesimally small and intimately connected to it all. The true nature of reality might be that it is participatory. We are not separate spectators watching a show. We are co-creators of the universe. Through our observations, our thoughts, and our actions, we are constantly shaping the world we experience. What we call reality is a dance between the known and the unknown, between the objective world out there and the subjective world in here. In the end, we are left with the mystery, and maybe that's the most beautiful and honest place to be. We don't have all the answers, and that's okay. It leaves room for wonder, it leaves room for exploration. It leaves room for each of us to find our own meaning in this strange and beautiful dance we call reality. What matters, perhaps, is not arriving at a final destination, but learning how to navigate the journey with curiosity, with kindness, and with an open heart. The reality you inhabit is the one you build with your attention. So, what will you pay attention to? That might be the most important question of all.